The Tarrant County Master Gardener Association has partnered with the Tarrant Regional Water District to encourage water conservation. TRWD maintains 4 area lakes and pipelines needed to provide surface water to local water treatment plants so they can clean that water to meet drinking standards for our communities. They also work with many cities in Tarrant County, such as Fort Worth, Arlington, Mansfield, and many others, to provide water conservation programs to the community. Conservation is an important water supply strategy to help meet the needs of our growing population. There are currently 2.3 million people living in Tarrant County, and this is expected to double over the next 50 years. At SaveTarrantWater.com, you can sign up for free weekly watering advice custom to your location. If you're a resident of Tarrant County, you can sign up for a free sprinkler's checkup where a licensed irrigator comes to your home, provides a comprehensive evaluation of your system with recommendations to reduce water waste. There's also an event calendar where you can find information about future classes and workshops. So be sure and check out SaveTarrantWater.com to sign up for their free services.
Well, today it's all about bugs, insects in the garden. Mostly good, a few bad, and what to do about some of that problem. When I go to the garden and I find that some of my plants have been almost completely devoid of leaves because I've got these big fat caterpillars eating their way through the plant. Is that a good thing? Or are these evil leaf eaters? No. One of these days they're going to become butterflies. So these caterpillars are just cute baby butterflies. Is this good or bad? There's my caterpillar, but it's really a hornworm on my tomato plant. And guess what? It's not going to become a problem in the future because it's been parasitized by a little paraconid wasps. They're tiny little things, and they have come up and they have put their little oviposters through the skin of the caterpillar, lay their eggs, and move away. And after a few days, we have these little cocoons being formed on the surface of that caterpillar, and they are going to pupate. And if you can tell, you already can see that some of them have, the little wasps have already cut a little top on the cocoon and flown away. So is that good or bad? Depends. If I wanted that caterpillar to become the sphinx moth, then I would say that was bad. But if I wanted my little wasp to live and the caterpillar to die, then the parasitoid would be what I'd need. Let's go back to little basics. If we think about caterpillars and all of the insects, the vast majority, about 97% of them, are either beneficial or totally harmless. And many of them, think about bees, think about the butterflies. A lot of them we consider essential. We wouldn't have much to eat if we got rid of our insects. And a lot of them are just simply beautiful. So with fewer than 3% of all insects counted as pests, those probably are going to be the ones of our main concern. But unfortunately, a lot of people look at all insects and include them in the bad ones. Let's think about the benefit that we have. We have the pollinator blossoms. There's a place in China where they raise pear trees. They've used so effectively their insecticides that they have to pollinate their pear trees by hand. So pollinators, we need them. We have those parasite insects that do destroy some of our pests. We have some that act as predators. We all know about the ladybugs and the rest. There are some that are very good in getting rid of weeds, and they do improve soil condition and fertility, and they perform a scavenger service, some of them. So a lot of reasons to have them. Predators and parasites, that's two classifications that we do need to be very well acquainted with. First of all, predators, they catch and they eat the other critters. Usually they're very active, and they have a little longer life cycle than some of the other insects. And whereas the parasites, they're going to live in or on the bodies of the other living organisms. They are typically are a little more sluggish with a little shorter life cycles. Here are a couple. Are they predator or parasites? Well, if you've ever looked at them close, you may know already that the hoverfly is definitely a predator. He eats a lot of aphids and other small soft creatures. Praying mantis, we're well acquainted with the praying mantis and his vicious appetite. Anything that's even his size, but particularly anything smaller, is fair play, and often a mantis will attack something that's even bigger than his body. Predator or parasite, how about it? A ground beetle or a Braconid moth, a wasp? First of all, the ground beetle, can you imagine how many of those there are? There are over 2,200 species of ground beetles in the United States. And they are so valuable in killing other insects that some farmers have found that if they plant a strip of grass at the edge of their fields that is available for the ground beetles to live, then it destroys a lot of their insects that are in the crop. So the ground beetles often are considered extremely valuable. The Braconid wasp, well, that's one of them that will parasitize the hornworm, the tomato hornworm, the tobacco hornworm, and a lot of the others like that. Predator or parasite? Well, cat flea. Do you realize that most of the dogs that have fleas really have cat fleas? That's the most common flea around, is the cat flea. And definitely, we know he's a parasite. Every time you see an animal scratching and you feel so sorry that somehow he's gotten hold of fleas again, you realize you're dealing with a parasite. Big-eyed bug? You may not know him. He's pretty small, but he has huge eyes. He is also a predator. He's a predator of a lot of the soft-bodied insects and very valuable, but he's very small. He is only about 1/6 of an inch. You can even purchase these little guys. They're so valuable that they even make them available in the market. Predator or parasite? Well, a lot of us know about the ladybugs, but how about the lady beetle larva? Are you acquainted with that? A lot of people, they see this and first thing they do, they smash it because they just think it's something bad. The lacewing, predator or parasite? Well, guess what? These are both predators. But the lacewing, maybe not, except in the larva form. There is the ladybug that came from that crazy-looking little larva. But did you know that the lacewing larva is just as strange, but also a very beneficial one because there again, it destroys a vast amount of aphids and small other critters. Friend or foe? These are a real question mark. I go out and I see a milkweed and I see it clusters of these orange and black bugs all over it. And I start trying to remove them thinking they're going to destroy my milkweed. But guess what? They usually don't. There may be a little cosmetic damage, but very little. They actually are almost neutral. They do a tiny bit of damage, but they never do away with the milkweed. What about the box elder bug? In some parts of the country, you'll find these even try to come in the house. I don't know that I have here, but they will often be clusters of those. And there again, are they a damage? Not really. They do a little bit. They do eat a little on the plants, but they are not particularly destructive of any of the trees or any of the milkweed. So friend or foe, kind of neutral. If they're a real problem in your house, you might want to vacuum them up. Don't try to smash a box elder bug. They have a very bad smell, and they will stay in your clothes. Friend or foe? This one I had to really decide on. I had to really think it through. Fennel. I love fennel. I have fennel that I've had for up to 6-7 years. It's a pretty good perennial. And I plant it for one reason. I plant it for those beautiful black swallowtails. One year I was watching the little caterpillars develop. They got bigger and they almost are ready for me to look for the chrysalis. I counted 18 of them one day, and the very next day I went out and found none, not a single one. I started searching the plant, and I finally found, guess what? You see that bug up there? That's an assassin bug. Well, the assassin bug had a hold of one of the caterpillars, and if you see that little proboscis that's underneath his chin, that was sticking into the caterpillar, and he was sucking all the liquid out of the caterpillar. I kept looking. Not only that, but I found one other caterpillar that had already been sucked dry, and it was just the skin. Friend or foe? Oh my goodness. I want a caterpillar, but the assassin bug kills a lot more than just caterpillars. They can be extremely beneficial. They also are not one that you want to handle. I was taking an entomology class, and as I went up to the steps to the science building, I saw one of these. I needed it for my collection, so I reached down, grabbed it, held it in the palm of my hand, and guess what? I didn't keep it there long, because that little proboscis not only will go into a plant, it will go into the palm of your hand and hurt really, really badly. So that did not get to be in my collection. Sorry about that, little bug. You got to live for another day. Dung beetles? This is one of them. It's a very helpful friend. I have to tell you about my experiences with dung beetles. I knew them as a kid. We had milk cows, we had mules, and guess what? Lots of dung beetles to do away with their droppings. And you would watch them, and it was kind of fun to watch them make their little rolls of dung and roll them around. But I didn't think about it one day when I was sitting in the backyard, and we were under the trees, and we had some new dogs, and they hadn't learned where to go and relieve themselves. One of them had made a pile not too far from where we were sitting. I watched a dung beetle walk across and go straight to it. He didn't start making a little ball. What he did was he went under the edge of the pile, and he started making a hole in the ground, and pretty soon the dung was going down into the ground. It took actually 45 minutes, and that whole dog poop was gone, totally underground. He had gotten it under the ground, and he was going to use it there. So not all dung beetles work the same. Some make the balls, some go underground with it, and this one definitely did. But that I didn't have to pick up that dog poop. It was already taken care of. They found this to their chagrin in Australia. They have lots of dung beetles. They found that the dung beetles, they'll take care of kangaroo poop. They'll take care of other things, but they didn't do anything with cattle because cattle are not native to Australia. So when they brought the cattle in, pretty soon they found out that they were having piles and piles of cow patties. And what do? They had to import dung beetles, and after a few years, the problem was solved. Let's go back a little basic science. The animal kingdom, we've got the phylum of Arthropoda, which is the insects and spiders, and 3/4 of all known animal species are within that phylum. There's 3 ways or 4 that you can really tell that you've got an insect and not a spider. 3 body segments. They have 3 pairs of legs, and some of them don't, so it doesn't always work. 1 pair of antennae, and often the adults are winged. So, class Insecta. There are 29 to 30 insect orders. The most common ones are listed here. There are a lot of the smaller orders that we might not even see the ones that go in there, but we know about the flies, the dipteras, the lepidopteras, which is one a lot of people are interested in, Hymenoptera, the bees, the wasps, and the ants, the Coleoptera, which are beetles and weevils, Thomoptera, the aphids, scales, and hoppers, the Hemiptera, the tubiids, and the Orthoptera, the crickets, and the grasshoppers. So those are some of our common ones. Now, how do we classify them? There are 2 major ways. One is the kind of metamorphosis or changes that they go through during their life, and the other is the kind of mouth parts they have. Let's look at metamorphosis first. First of all, it shows in the chart there 4 different levels. There are actually 2 main things. They're gradual and complete. But let's look at, first of all, the one that doesn't have any changes. All they do is change size. Think about silverfish. If you have ever seen silverfish, if you see a tiny one and you put it beside a large adult one, there's no difference except size, no difference in any part of their body. So that has no metamorphosis. And then there's the gradual ones, the grasshoppers and the crickets. And if you look at grasshoppers, you can tell what stage he is by the little wing nubs. When he first comes out of the egg, no wings. And then gradually you see the little nub develop. And by the time he reaches true adult, he's got full wing spread. So that's a gradual metamorphosis. Then, of course, the incomplete, which is the dragonflies and the damselflies. And these are fascinating ones. They have to have water. Their naiad stage is in the water, and they are fierce predators as a larva stage. I have watched them in Colorado. I saw a lot of them. Some of them there, when they're in that stage, they cover themselves with little tiny rocks. So their little pebbles are covering them, and they look like they're just part of the sand in the bottom of the water. But then when they go through several stages as naiads, and then when they're ready, if you've got plants around the edge of the waterway or anything else, they will crawl out, and then they will do just like the caterpillars coming out of the cocoons into butterflies and moths. They will open up the skin on their naiad, their last stage, and they will come out as dragonflies or adult moths. But again, they have to lay their eggs in water. So that's an incomplete metamorphosis. They skip the pupa stage. But the complete, of course, is the one we study a lot in school. The butterflies, the bees, the wasps, the ants, a lot of them go through all 4 stages, and they're the ones that we often study and enjoy seeing them go through each stage of growth. Now, what about the mouth parts? This is the funny one. If you get an insect and you want to identify him and you really aren't sure which he is, one way to help you identify him is put him in a bag or something, put him in the freezer for just a minute or two till he gets to where you can really hold him and look at him. Get a hand lens and look at that little face. If you look at the face close enough, you might see one of these 4 types of mouth parts. A is the chewing and lapping. That's your honeybees. B is your houseflies. He's like a little sponge on the end of his mouth. C is the piercing sucking ones, which are like a lot of the piercing sucking predators that you know. Mosquitoes are a good one of that. You've felt their piercing. And then the siphoning, of course, the butterflies and moths. So those mouth parts help to identify what insect you're doing. What are the mouth parts for these that's going to help us identify it? Well, if you've had an aphid or two in your garden, you know that aphid is the one with a piercing, very definitely piercing sucking. What about the grub under the ground? Well, if you look at their little mouth, you know he's going to be chewing on stuff. He is definitely going to be eating with his little mouth. Okay. One thing I hadn't realized till I started doing research is how many different kinds of aphids there are. It's like a rainbow of color. There are greens and there are blacks and there are pinks and there are orange, but all of the different aphids, depending on the plant they're on, but they're all small, they're all soft-bodied, and they make excellent food for a lot of the other predators. What mouthpart do we have here? We've got a white fly and a mealybug. Think about it. Have you ever seen their little mouthparts? Probably not. But they both have the same kind of mouthpart. It's piercing and sucking for both of these. And if you've seen the damage they leave, you're aware of that. What about this? We've got a looper, and then we've got an adult looper. What kind of mouth do we have? Well, we know the looper is one of those little guys who's going to be chewing and making holes in your leaves. But what about the adult? Well, this is one of the few adult moths that do chewing. Most moths are only going to take some liquid in the form of nectar or something, and a lot of moths do not eat as adults at all. But the adult looper does do a little bit of damage. So if I want to identify one, if I know the insect order, it may give me some valuable information about what it is and what to do. First, find out the mouth part, if I can, and the damage. That gives me an idea of what kind of damage, its life cycle, and sometimes even its habitat will help me. Okay, let's look at this kind of injury. If I've got a chewing insect, I may have something that looks like those leaves at the top. They've got little parts of the leaves missing, but they've also got parts that's just been pierced and sucked out. So external plant parts are eaten. You've got holes or skeletonized leaves. So you've got probably a chewing insect. Now, if it's a piercing, sucking insect, you won't have whole sections of the leaf missing, but you will have the epidermis of the leaf has been pierced and the sap has been sucked out. And it'll lead to leaf necrosis or death of the leaves and maybe leaf curl. But you can't always tell. These two bits of damage are fairly similar. I've got black-eyed Susans in my yard right now that have similar to these. They are pieces missing. There is necrosis, but I can't find anything on there. I've gone out at midnight. I've taken my hand lens. I cannot find what's doing it. So who knows? Chew, piercing and sucking, I'm not sure what I have. Another kind of injury is your internal, and this is where they go inside the layers of the plant itself. And sometimes if you are careful and really look, you'll see the little larva stage in that track in the middle of the leaf. And then of course there's subterranean ones. There's some that are underground, and they're going to attack your plant there. And then there's the ones that they actually lay their eggs in the bark of trees. I was in Washington, D.C. for a tour once, and we noticed that there were a lot of the ends of branches, just the last few inches of lots and lots of branches that were brown. That was cicada eggs that were damaging the ends of those trees. When they do a lot of that, it's called flagging, and you'll see just the top few inches of a plant that's been damaged and is dying. Another kind of insect injury, and we may not see the guilty party, but we see the damage, and that is thrips on tomatoes, on roses. And again, the critter is small enough, you may not see it, but it does certainly mess up your tomato crop. And that's what some of the thrips look like. They're really rather attractive. They're tiny, tiny, tiny. So you will never probably see them in this form. But if you got your little hand lens out, you would see something similar to these. These are three of the kind of thrips that we have. Also, we know that insects are vectors for diseases. There are over 200 plant diseases that insects do spread. When that piercing, sucking insect is damaging your plant, it may also be spreading a virus. 150 viruses like tomato curly tops, a 25 virus fungi like the oak wilt, and more than 15 bacterial diseases like fire bite. So when we see damage, we may not be seeing the insect damage, we may see what the insect left, the viruses. If we're going to recognize what our insect problem is, we need to look for the pest itself. Look out there and see if you can actually locate the insect. Look at the mouth part. If you can get that little critter close enough and get a hand lens and look at that mouth, it might tell you a bit about. Look for signs of the presence of the insect. If you're underneath a tree and you get sticky stuff falling on your car, you know it's a honeydew from an insect. You might see the fecal droppings. You might see the little skins, the little cast skins from them, even empty egg cases. And even better yet, to help identify, is maybe there's a dead insect that you will see. So, might help you a little bit. There are some natural enemies for our critters. Biological control, natural the natural enemies, and we know that ladybugs are often purchased for that. We can augment our existing population by adding a few more of whatever's there, but mainly conserving our beneficial ones by reducing the amount of pesticide and use alternative hosts instead of the pesticides. If I need to use a control, there are some microbial insecticides, and I've listed them here. There are 3 of them that we can use that will help us. So if you need those, the Bacillus thuringiensis, that controls the larvae of moths and butterflies. But if I purchase that to use for a very invasive caterpillar, don't forget it's going to kill the caterpillars of your butterflies that you want to keep. The Bacillus pompilia, it takes care of grubs of the Japanese beetle, and I don't know that we've had too much problem with that. Nosema leucostra is a spore used to control grasshoppers, and on a year that we have extreme problems with grasshoppers, that might be one we want to look at. The Trypagona wasp is a little parasite that will attack the eggs of 200 pest species, but you have to make sure you release it at the right time for it to do any good. And green lacewings that we showed earlier, it's a predator, and it preys on aphids and spider mites. And in order to make it be of any usefulness, you need to make sure that it actually have enough of the aphids or spider mites for it to have a good supply. There's our little Trypagona wasp, and he's really 1/50th of an inch, so he's not going to be where you can really see him. And the green lacewing, again, those are purchasable. They are stuff that you can use if it gets too bad. Here's a couple of other ones. The praying mantis, of course, we know that they'll eat the grasshoppers, the bees, the crickets, the wasps, and lots of things. The ladybug beetles, again, you've got to have a good supply of food for them, or don't bother to release them. I released a purchased bag of them one day and found them all a few days later all dead in the greenhouse. They ate up what was there, and then they died because they didn't have a food supply. So be careful what you do. There's our praying mantis and our ladybug beetles, good ones. We have a few organic things we can use to get rid of the ones that are really causing problem. The least toxic insecticide, whatever you use the one that's going to be the least toxic. Use one that's going to be low problem for humans and animals, and use only when needed, and follow the label directions. There is some organic things you can use, and they're kind of interesting. The insecticidal soap is what a lot of people use, and if you want to know a combination of oils and soaps, if you go online, you can find plenty of recipes for that. The pepper, onion, and garlic is a commonly used one, and even though the data is it's pretty good at this point that it does do a lot of good. It doesn't kill them right away, but it does help. What you do is 4 little cloves of garlic, a great big onion, cut them up small, put them in your blender, a couple of spoons of pepper, and a couple of cups of water. Let it sit overnight, and then you got to spray for the next day, and spray your plant. Diatomaceous earth and sulfur. Sulfur is a yellow powder that, as kids, if we were going to go out and harvest the blackberries, it always happened at a time of the year when the chiggers were really bad. So what we would do is we'd take the sulfur in a toe of a sock, and we would slap around our legs, around our ankles, around our tops of our shoes, and around our wrists where our cuffs of our shirt were. And guess what? Chiggers don't like sulfur, so we had very few chiggers as a result of using the sulfur, but you don't want to breathe it in. And then there are microbial insecticides. So there are some things you can use that are not as damaging as others. If you do want to use an insecticide, the plant-derived ones, pyrethrum, they're not specific. They don't kill just one. They kill a lot of different things. So be very careful. They cause rapid paralysis, and they're registered for use on most fruits, vegetables, and ornamentals. And the nicotine, I remember my mom using nicotine. It will control the piercing, sucking insects. Use it in warm weather, otherwise it's not worth much. And as a last resort, use the least toxic product available and apply it only according to directions, and just make sure that you're not using anything that you would not want to be on your skin or on your pets. The main thing we've had lately is protecting our bees. This is not only the honeybees, it's our wild bees that do a lot of our pollinators. Don't ply it while the bees are active during the day. Treat the plants early in the morning or late in the afternoon, and then make sure that the product you're using is not going to be one that's highly toxic to those valuable bees. And controlling the mosquitoes, that's another one, and some of the cities are beginning to spray again, but we can control a lot of them by doing our own thing. Remember, with standing water, it only has to stand 2 or 3 days before you've got wigglers in it. Wear protective clothing, use a repellent yourself, and if you've got a little pond or stream, minnows always will love the mosquito larvae, and you can put the dung in the pools, and that will give you control over that. So, insects, I love them, and I hate them at the same time, but mostly it's a love affair with insects. If we didn't have them, what would we do without them? I have given my phone number and my email address. I can't answer a lot of them just off the top of my head. Most questions require a little research, a picture, or a dead insect to help you identify. But I enjoy having my insects in my yard. I want more of them because every one of those insects is a potential meal for the birds and the butterflies, the birds and the other critters that are in my yard. Be sure you let me know if you've got questions, and we'll see you in the garden.